Hey, let's make something. Today we're continuing the feast with a joint of roast meat, that's going to be lamb, a sucking pig, and some roasted chestnuts. You can see I got a new cutting mat for Christmas, which is very nice. Everything's nice and fresh. Here I'm rolling out the leg bone for the leg of lamb. And that's just a mix of mostly white and a touch of transparent clay. And I'm making it look hollow and using a knife to make it look cut. And now I'm rolling out some chestnuts. I looked at reference photos, and a lot of times when you roast chestnuts, some of them will split open and you see their insides, which is like almost a mustard yellow color. So I tried to make some of these look like split chestnuts. So I have a ball of that yellow clay that I rolled in sort of a thin layer of the brown. And here I'm making the tiny point on the end of the chestnuts. So you can see I'm just using my finger, making it roughly sort of a chocolate chip shape. And now I'm measuring out the clay for the sucking pig. I mixed some sort of dark red terracotta color with translucent for this. Because if you look at reference pictures of roasted sucking pigs, which are piglets, which haven't been weaned yet, they tend to be all one sort of dark reddish color, and they have like a shiny wrinkled appearance to their skin. So I'm trying to mimic that with shapers. Adding a little tail. Adding some little legs. I didn't make those very detailed because they don't tend to be that detailed on a roasted pig, it seems. Making sure everything fits. And they're not as fat as you would think either. They are quite cylindrical, like this tube of clay I made. And now I'm making the head. Sometimes people put berries into the eyes. I think that's kind of weird looking, honestly, so I just made the little shape of a closed eye, which you also see. Attaching the head, I made the head too big, I had to cut off part of it. That's why it's good to have that tray nearby so I can check and make sure it still fits, that I'm not getting too big with my sculpture. Making ears. I also made these too big, so I had to trim just the ends. But it's nice to have something roasted like this, so you can make ear shapes, but they don't have to match each other, and as you attach them, if they get a little bit squished, that's totally fine. It just looks like how they curled up in the oven. Adding some more wrinkles and dimples. Here's the meat for the lamb. This is mostly gray clay and some translucent and some pink, but if you look at a cooked leg of lamb, you'll see most of the meat is this type of gray, which seems unappetizing, but the outside will be browned, the inside will be pink if the meat's more rare, which I'm going to do a technique for that, but most of the meat will be this kind of grayish, so this does look the most authentic, I think. And I use my needle tool to sort of make lines as if the roast was tied with string before it was roasted, and I think that makes it look more real. Here I'm cutting very thin slices. and trying to just leave them attached but sort of unfurled, making more meat grain texture. Oh, I'm also using a little ball of tin foil to texture things. And browning this piglet with some brown pastels, and then a mix of brown and yellow for the lamb. This is just the first layer. And then a touch of pink inside to make the meat look rosy. And for the chestnuts, I'm adding a lighter brown, just a dot with a dotting tool in paint on the one side of the chestnut. And here I'm adding some dark crimson red acrylic paint to one side of these little spheres of red clay that I decided that would be cranberries. So sometimes when you look at a dish of cranberries, you'll see some of them are much darker red on one side, so I tried to copy that. And I lost some footage where I made bay leaves out of just green paper, so that was what was in the bottom of the dish there. Now time to arrange some chestnuts. So I made 3 that were split open. So you see they're the dark brown, but you can see the yellow inside. And I set those down in the little pan with glue, of course, and arranged all the plain closed chestnuts around them. And I thought the pig looked a little bit plain, so I cut up one of those lemon slices from before into quarters to decorate the back of it there. Now I'm just using a knife to make the cutting board look like it's been used before. And I put a little brown paint in the lines to make them show up, and I glued down the leg of lamb. Partially I glued it at this point just because it's easier to hold the cutting board. And now painting it with a little bit of watered down brown paint. Just on the outside. I'm trying to avoid getting it inside any of the slices. So it looks like it was nicely browned in the oven. And I did put some on the bone and then sort of wiped it off, so it's just lightly touched. Now a little more crimson inside for the meat. And one of those bowls I made to have mint sauce, which is just the leftover dust from some of that dollar store moss, which I love so much, mixed with UV resin and then a touch of light green UV resin coloring. And I think that came out nicely. It's nice when a sauce isn't just one flat thing, so it doesn't look like resin. It has specks inside of it, which looks nice. And then I cover all the meats and the chestnuts with some clear gloss to make them look shiny and juicy. That worked out pretty well. I'm not sure I love those bay leaves, but I think they're okay. I might see if I can figure something out for those in future. Adding some old coffee grounds to the top of the roast to make it look like spices. And then covering that with gloss varnish so they don't come off. And it came out pretty well, I thought. I was pretty happy with this one. It does look like a real roast to me. So that's it for the dishes today, and next time we will start on some of the dessert dishes. Thanks for watching.